This video is brought to you by Raycon. Ice Pikmin. After all these long years, Nintendo is finally taking another crack at 3D Donkey Kong. And I cannot properly communicate the joy I feel. I've already talked about it plenty, so I will simply reiterate that DK Bananza looks incredible. It looks beyond incredible. No, the first trailer looked beyond incredible, and then the second trailer, the whole big direct, it went far beyond even that. By the time you watch this video, it'll probably be out, but at the time of this recording, we are still waiting, and Nintendo just revealed the game's developer. Normally, they are frustratingly and kind of confusingly tight-lipped about this sort of thing. You know, usually they insist that if we want to know who made the game, we're just gonna have to play the game ourselves and read the credits, darn it. But this time, Nintendo surprised us by revealing the studio early. What was not surprising, however, was that the game was developed by Nintendo EPD8. EPD8 was responsible for the development of Super Mario Odyssey, as well as every other 3D Mario since Galaxy on the Wii. They actually started with DK Jungle Beat before that. That was like their first game, so it's really cool to see them come full circle. But yeah, like even from the first trailer for DK Bananza, we could see the Odyssey DNA all over this thing. This thing just reeked of Odyssey. The gameplay variety, the flexible and expressive mechanics, the animation, just like the overall style, really everything. But even more, we could simply see that Nintendo did not mess around with this game. Like, this is a full, fat effort. This is every bit as creative and polished and grand as Nintendo's absolute biggest Mario efforts, probably even exceeding them all up to this point, which, again, is a dream come true. I mean, I've been screaming for a new 3D DK game since, you know, forever, hoping dearly that we would someday get one at all, like any kind at all. But now we're getting one, and it looks this good. It's getting the full 3D Mario treatment, no caveats, no limitations whatsoever. It's just amazing. And that's why I really don't want anyone to take this video the wrong way. Do not believe for a second that I am not happy with how this has turned out. Do not think that I am unsatisfied. It's just that I can't help but wonder, and naturally talk about, what this might mean for Mario. It goes without saying that Mario is Mario, Nintendo's flagship series, their mascot, etc., etc. And the 2D games sell really well too, but nothing is bigger. Nothing is more of an event. Nothing is better representative of a Nintendo console than 3D Mario. Barring maybe Zelda nowadays, but before the Switch, even Zelda couldn't hold a candle to Mario. And need I remind you, I don't need to remind you, I point it out all the time, but I'm gonna say it anyway, Nintendo has put out a 3D Mario at launch or within the first year of launch of every single one of their 3D capable systems. Every one, starting way back in the day with Super Mario 64. Now, if Nintendo is still basically following this model, they're just giving the slot to DK instead of Mario, it's hard to complain too much. I mean, DK certainly deserves it. He has needed a really fresh, really big new game for so long now. This right here is a huge opportunity for the guy. It's just that it's created a very unusual scenario. It's kind of strange to go this long without a new 3D Mario, especially since for years now, it's felt like we were long past due for one. Odyssey came out just about at the beginning of the Switch generation, and that was the single longest Nintendo generation ever, over 8 years. And we got Bowser's Fury at the beginning of 2021, which was awesome. Wow, super, do not get me wrong. I could seriously play that game just again and again and again. But like, when it came out, we could really feel how small it was. You know, like you can 100% the thing in like 5 hours. It felt like an appetizer, like a little snack to hold us over while we waited for the full course, which we assumed must have been cooking. And like, if instead of Bowser's Fury, we had gotten something like Odyssey 2, then that would have made a lot more sense. It still would have felt like a slight stopgap, like maybe just kind of a little bit of an in-between thing, but still a full title. You know, something to completely satisfy us for several years while Nintendo worked on the next really big Mario thing. That would mean big Mario games in 2017, 2021, and 2025, assuming that they gave us one this year. 3.5 years for a quickie sequel, 4.5 years for something totally new. Before we continue, a quick reminder that this video was brought to you by Raycon. Wait, what's this I've got in my hand? Is it something new? Yes. But is it also something classic? Yes. This right here is a pair of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic. On the outside, this is their original model of the everyday earbuds. These use buttons instead of touch functionality. And both have their perks, but these are a great choice if you're more into buttons, and obviously if you're more into the classic look. They've got all the usual features, up to 32 hours of battery life using the charging case, multiple sound profiles, all that. But now they also come with active noise cancellation, like the other newer everyday earbuds models. So here you've got the classic style made better than ever, and they're still the comfiest earbuds I've ever used. I use them basically every day, especially on long walks. I can't go on long walks right now because I hurt my leg and it's too hot outside. But you know, they're pretty good for just sitting around the house too. They're still about half the price of other premium brands. They still come with a 100% happiness guarantee. And if you head to buyraycon.com/Arlo or hit the link in the description or scan this handy QR code, you can get 20% off a pair of the fan favorite everyday earbuds Classic. Thanks again to Raycon. The video may resume now. But we didn't get a quickie sequel. We got the amazing, totally amazing, yet very bite-sized little quiche that was Bowser's Fury. And it felt really unlikely at the time that that was all we were gonna get on Switch. Well, we didn't end up getting another 3D Mario on Switch, but now that we're getting DK Bananza within the first few months of the Switch 2 generation, the whole picture does make sense. Even if they had started on DK before Bowser's Fury released and were working on both simultaneously, the timing works. Game dev is taking longer and longer these days, yada yada. I could easily see a game as massive as Bananza taking a good 5 years plus. The only weird thing about it is how EPD8 working on Bananza might delay the next 3D Mario. Assuming that they're gonna continue tradition and make it themselves, this creates a massive gap between Mario titles. If they're only starting full production now that DK is done, how long is it gonna take? I mean, I guess if we're lucky, DK only took as long as it did because it was a pretty different kind of game, you know, lots of new ideas and mechanics to come up with. Knowing Nintendo, maybe even just the digging and the rock-breaking mechanic, that probably took up years. So if that's the case, then is it possible that the next 3D Mario will use some of the foundation they built in Odyssey and development will go a bit faster? Would 3 years be out of the question? Is that too unrealistic? At the same time, I cannot avoid recalling what happened to Tears of the Kingdom. I hate to beat one of the deadest horses in the history of my channel, but I still cannot fathom what happened there. Even considering increasing development times and the pandemic and the complexity of the Ultra Hand mechanic, I just still can't understand why it took them so long to make a sequel that recycled so much of the Breath of the Wild experience. So we really can't underestimate how long it might take them to make the next 3D Mario. Even when everything lines up and we have every reason to believe a game won't take too long to make, we just never know. 5 years plus for the next Mario would not be out of the question. But how about we split the difference and say it takes them 4 years starting now? That means it won't release until 2029. That would be 12 years between major 3D Mario releases. And I ain't gonna lie, that would be hard. Especially since, to beat another equally dead horse, Odyssey 2 would have really cleared this whole thing up. It would have made all of this make complete, total sense. To me, it felt like such a perfect opportunity to do more with the mechanics and improve upon some of the design elements and just create the definitive Odyssey experience. It was exactly as good of an opportunity as Galaxy 2 was, if not better. Especially if they could have had a smaller team make it while everyone else worked on DK, or maybe even Bowser's Fury. But the lack of Odyssey 2 makes all of this feel so strange. That's just so many years to to wait for 3D Mario with only Bowser's Fury to tide us over. Which again was great, but it wasn't even a standalone title. It was basically glorified DLC for an older game. Odyssey itself didn't even get major DLC. Did it really take them a full 3.5 years just to make a mini campaign using most of the same ideas and assets from 3D World? It felt like the very definition of an economical, quickie little stopgap. Yet on the schedule, it was basically treated like a full mainline title. Did it really just not take that much less time to develop than a full title would have? I don't know, it's weird. For a flagship series, this release schedule is just a little surprising. And you know what, I'll absolutely admit, this gap between major titles shouldn't be surprising or weird. Again, if you were to argue that clearly DK Bananza essentially is the next 3D Mario, I would say you're probably right. Furthermore, if you were to argue that by even mentioning Mario when we've got a delectable DK right in front of us, I'm just being greedy, to that I would say you are once more entirely correct. I am being greedy. Yeah, again, the timing all works for the most part. DK really is just filling the slot that Mario would have traditionally filled. But like I said, I'm not trying to say that I'm broken up about this or anything. I am incredibly happy, in fact. There's just this tiny part of me that is, well, for one, just fascinated by the idea that Nintendo would put their flagship series on ice for such a massive stretch of time. Like, that's just interesting as someone who likes to follow the company. But two, yes, there is a part of me that is a wee little bit disappointed that it's going to take so long before I'm playing the next big Mario thing. Personally, I think I just prefer Mario over DK overall, like thematically, I guess. They're just two very different things when it comes to style and mechanics and all that. And also, it's that thing with the potential again. Odyssey and Bowser's Fury were so incredible, but they also felt like the beginnings of something even bigger and better. Odyssey felt like a little bit of a trial run for a perfect sequel, and Bowser's Fury felt like a template for taking old stuff and creating smaller, yet still really, really inventive, creative experiences. It felt like these two games, in their own completely unique ways, laid the groundwork for Mario experiences, maybe on a level we've never seen before. So I've just been so darn excited to see what Nintendo does with the guy next, to see which of these ideas might be further developed and expanded. But if there's gonna be that much of a gap between titles, then Nintendo probably isn't gonna reuse any of these templates or ideas. They're probably just gonna leave it all behind and work on something totally new next time. We could dream up some scenarios where it doesn't actually take too long to get the next 3D Mario. It's entirely possible that Nintendo split up a little chunk of EPD8 and they've been working on the next Mario for maybe even a couple years now. We know that they were growing their internal teams going into this generation. That could really speed things along, especially if that smaller team nailed down the concept and did all the prototyping and whatnot, so that now everyone can just full steam ahead, pull the whole entire thing together in good time. And of course, there's the idea that the next 3D Mario just won't be developed by EPD8 at all. There's no rule that says they have to make every 3D Mario. You know, they didn't make the first couple. This is Nintendo. They have been known to surprise us now and then. And if that was the case, then they could reveal the next Mario basically anytime, right? However, I am not getting my hopes up. For one, Tears of the Kingdom really damaged me, man. It really taught me not to expect anything when it comes to Nintendo's release timing. It had every reason to be the quickest Zelda turnaround since Majora's Mask, and instead it ended up being literally the slowest ever. A whole year just to polish up the Ultra Hand mechanic? Even if there are reasons for all of this, it all makes sense. Nintendo could totally explain it if they wanted to. It just means that we can really never make assumptions about this stuff. Especially since, just overall, Nintendo does not like to hurry. They just don't. It's not their style. They don't start creating a game until they have a concept they're happy with, and they do not publish a game until they feel it is done. And hey, That ain't such a bad thing, is it? They refuse to rush a game to market, even if it's from a flagship series, even if they know it is going to be a big moneymaker. It's one thing that sets them apart from many of their industry contemporaries. You know, if your EAs or your Activisions owned Mario, I'm sure we would see a brand new title every year or two. It would be like Call of Duty or Pokemon. Anyway, mostly though, I just don't think we're gonna get a new Mario anytime soon because it really would be weird to release two huge 3D platformer collectathons too close together. Again, Bananza, it's totally juiced up with Mario DNA. It is the next Mario. I can't see Nintendo giving us an actual Mario for a few years. I'd say 2 at least, if we're being reasonable. That would put Mario within the first 2 years of the Switch 2's life, which isn't too far off from that first year window. 1 year between DK and Mario wouldn't be like the absolute most impossibly surprising thing in the world, but I don't know, I do have to draw the line there. That would still be shocking. Not impossible, but still very hard to imagine. Unless the next Mario game doesn't build upon the foundation of any past Mario game and is something so just totally wildly new that releasing these two games close together won't feel weird at all? But now we're getting into real speculative territory, so I guess I better back up a couple steps. Ultimately, I am slightly confused, and yes, slightly bummed as well, that so much time will pass between major 3D Mario games. I can spend time imagining this crazy dream scenario where we get both 3D DK and 3D Mario within the Switch 2's first year. We're eating impossibly huge. And not only that, but now 3D DK itself has become its own whole entire separate series we can look forward to. Now we're getting twice as many huge AAA Nintendo platformers. But that is not reality. You and I live in a reality where instead of putting all their eggs in the Mario basket, Nintendo is giving Bill Kong Holiday himself his biggest shot in decades. And I guess I'm cool with that. If DK Bananza really is essentially the next big Mario game, then it looks like one for the ages, man. And you know, Mario's got too big a head anyway. I think he could stand to have his ego knocked down a couple pegs. Share the spotlight for once in his life. However, I would like to end this video with a moment of reverence for the game that never got a chance. Here we go, off the rails. It's time to raise our sails.